The Buddha spoke about many things, and one thing he had a lot to say was about human relationships. And of all the relationships he talked about, the one he spoke about most and gave most details concerning was friendship. According to the Buddha, all our relationships, if possible, should develop into friendships, so that your wife or your husband is also your best friend. Your brother and sister is also your best friend. Perhaps the neighbor next door is more than a neighbor, he's also your best friend. So friendship was very important in Buddhism and needs to be talked about perhaps more often. The word for friendship in Buddhism is mittata, and I would say that it would be equivalent to what the ancient Greeks called philia. Close, warm, bonding friendship. And the Buddha actually talks about three types of, or three levels, or three intensities, you might say, of friendship. The first one is, the Pali word is sakkā, which means just a friend. So let's say you could call this a friendly acquaintance. Somebody you know often, you get on well together, but you're not really close. So we would have lots of people in our ambit who would probably fall into that category. The next one, going somewhat deeper and more important to individuals, would be what he called mittata saddha, which means loving friend. So this is the type of friend that you really do care about. They are really important in your life. Perhaps it's a school friend that you used to know, and now you used to hang out together, and you might even say you really love each other. So that would be sort of a more intense form of friendship. And according to Buddha, the most important friendship is what the Buddha called kalyana mitta. The word kalyana means literally beautiful, and of course it doesn't refer to physical beauty, it refers to the inner beauty of the best of human qualities. And there's a very famous story where Ananda, the Buddha's Kalyana Mitra, you might say, Ananda said to the Buddha, I think that to have a Kalyana Mitra, a beautiful friend or a spiritual friend, I think that to have a Kalyana Mitra is half of the spiritual life. And interestingly enough, the Buddha said, say not so, Ananda, say not so. It is not half the spiritual life, it's all the spiritual life. Now that's a pretty important thing, that to have a good friend is so important in your spiritual life. Why should that be so? Well, in Buddhism we emphasize that each person has to walk the path themselves. The Buddha cannot walk the path for us. He can guide us, he can inspire us, he can prod us, he can do all sorts of things, but ultimately it's up to us. So you might say that Buddhism is a do-it-yourself project. But while we must walk the path ourselves, we cannot do it in isolation from others. We need human contact. We need people we can share with, people who can help us when we're down. Hopefully people who know more of the spiritual life than we know, and they can advise us or put us on the wrong path when we stray off. In the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha talks about some of the qualities of the best type of friend. And one of them is, interestingly enough, he says, to the best friend, a loving friend, he will share his secrets with you, and the secrets that you share with him, he will not divulge to others. What that means is that you can be absolutely honest, sincere and open with a Kalyana Mitra, and that is, of course, is a very rare and wonderful thing to be able to have. So these are the three types of friendship according to the Buddha, and all of them are important in their own way. But the best type of friend, the best type of friendship is spiritual friendship. Now, just to finish, I might say that when we're talking about friendship, of course, we're really talking about an attitude or a set of emotions and what have you we have towards another person. But it might be important to consider also being friends with ourselves. Being friends with ourselves. Now, a lot of people probably would find that rather an unusual thing to say, because probably most people like themselves. But that is not always the case. For a variety of reasons, some people don't really think that they're very nice. And it's also true to say some people are not very nice. But why would a person not be friendly with themselves? Well, it may be that their parents used to put them down and criticize them too much, and now they feel inadequate and incomplete. It may be because they did, or they think they have done something really bad, and they feel very bad about themselves for that. And the important thing is, some people think that they've committed some really bad offense when in actual fact they haven't. There are others who have actually done something really very bad, and now years later they feel extremely regretful about it, and it interferes with their ability to be kind to themselves. So this does sometimes happen. There are other people who really love themselves, but they don't behave in ways that are actually good for themselves. So, for example, particularly nowadays, people generally have a good opinion of themselves. Maybe they think they're terrific, but they do things like, well, they hang around with a bad crowd, or they take drugs or something like that. And however you look at it, if you do things like that, you're not your own best friend. That is certainly the case. So being your own best friend, or befriending yourself in the best possible way, is a very important thing. I would say it is an important thing in spiritual maturity and growing into a well-balanced person. And the best way we can get to be our own friend is sincerely practicing the Dhamma, the precepts, trying to purify our mind, being a friend to others, being honest, having integrity. This is definitely the best way to be your own best friend, to practice the Dhamma.